Imagine standing ankle-deep in puddles on a freezing New York sidewalk, your hands trembling not just from the cold, but from the weight of your sister's unpaid tuition, while trying to protect a small flower stand from being swallowed by a storm. Then, out of nowhere, a man in a designer suit, soaked and desperate, drops to his knees in front of you with a velvet ring box, begging for your help. But not for love. For a lie. That's exactly what happened to Claire Bennett, a gritty, independent florist in Brooklyn, whose life took an unimaginable turn after one rainy afternoon. She thought she was just helping out a stranger named Nathaniel Cross, a rich, sharp-dressed man with eyes that looked more exhausted than arrogant. All he asked for was 5 minutes of her time to pretend to be his girlfriend at a family dinner. She agreed, mostly for the $500 he offered. But what unfolded in the next few days would change both of their lives forever. This wasn't just a fake relationship turned real. It was about class divides, family pressure, buried dreams, and a love that bloomed in the least expected place. If you've ever wondered what happens when two completely different worlds collide in the most unpredictable way, you're about to find out. If you love dramatic, emotional stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to John's Stories channel and get new powerful tales every day that will make you laugh, cry, and believe in love all over again.
The rain that day wasn't just a drizzle. It felt like the entire sky was grieving, pounding New York's concrete with sharp, bitter drops. On the corner of the Brooklyn Farmers Market, Claire Bennett was battling the storm like she always did, with grit and duct tape. Her flower stall, a patchwork of crates, tarps, and hand-painted signs, looked like it had weathered 100 similar tempests. And maybe it had. She wasn't afraid of rain, or cold fingers, or rejection. What she feared was losing the last thread of stability she clung to, her sister Emily's future. While Claire fought with a flapping tarp over her lavender bundles, a blur of navy blue and soaked silk appeared from the alley. At first, she thought it was just another Wall Street suit who took a wrong turn, but then the man, Nathaniel Cross, though she didn't know his name yet, stopped right in front of her. Drenched from head to toe, his chest heaving like he had run a marathon in dress shoes. "I need your help. Just 5 minutes," he said, water dripping from his lashes to his tie. She blinked. Help with what? That's when he did the most unexpected thing. He dropped to his knees, splashing into the puddle in front of her stand like it was the most natural thing in the world. Out of his damp coat, he pulled a velvet box. Not to propose to her, but to bribe her. "I'll give you $500, he said, opening the box to reveal a cheap ring, now half-drenched, "if you pretend to be my girlfriend. Just for 5 minutes. Claire stared at him like he had 3 heads. "I don't even know your name!" "That's why it works. My name's Nathaniel. Nathaniel Cross. My family's expecting me at dinner right now, and they think I'm in a serious relationship. If I walk in alone, it'll be complicated." She wasn't sure whether to be flattered, horrified, or call security. But then, like in every life-defining moment, something small shifted. Claire looked down at the crushed bouquet at her feet, looked at Nathaniel's pale, pleading eyes, and then thought of Emily, still behind on tuition, still working 2 shifts between pre-med classes. "Fine," she said at last. "But I have one condition." "Anything," he replied almost too fast. "If I get humiliated, I leave. And I don't care about the money." Nathaniel nodded, a rare flicker of gratitude flickering beneath the chaos in his expression. "Deal." They rushed through the storm and ducked into a sleek black SUV waiting by the curb. As Claire sat down and wiped the fog off the window, she started to realize what she had just agreed to. They drove uptown, toward the part of Manhattan that most people only ever see in magazines. Pristine brownstones, gated mansions, trees trimmed like they were under contract with a French palace. And finally, a 3-story Georgian-style home glowing from within like a Tiffany display case. "This is what you call a small family dinner?" she whispered. Nathaniel managed a crooked smile. "My mom tends to exaggerate." She said nothing as they stepped out and approached the grand stone steps. Just before they reached the door, he took her hand, not forcefully, not theatrically, gently. "Just remember, 5 minutes." But Claire already knew something was off. She hadn't even stepped into the house, and yet her heart was pounding like she was walking into battle. Inside, everything was polished wood, crystal chandeliers, and the faint scent of wine and money. An elegant woman in a midnight blue gown appeared first, Elaine Cross, Nathaniel's mother. She was every bit the high society matriarch, poised, clipped, and unblinking. "Nate," she said with restrained affection. Then her gaze slid to Claire. "And this must be—" "Claire Bennett," he said without hesitation. "My girlfriend." Elaine tilted her head ever so slightly, the way someone might examine a stain on a priceless dress. But to Claire's surprise, she smiled. "Lovely to meet you, Claire." The pleasantries continued. Next was Robert Cross, Nathaniel's father, a steely man in his early 60s with a handshake that felt more like a contract signing. "What do you do, Claire?" "I run a flower stall in Brooklyn," she said evenly, holding her ground as the room seemed to pause for breath. "Really?" Elaine asked, her curiosity piqued. Claire nodded. "I pick the flowers myself at 4 a.m., arrange them, deliver them, everything. It's not glamorous, but I love it." And just like that, something strange happened. The scrutiny turned to intrigue. Elaine's lips parted in a subtle smile. It's rare to hear someone talk about their work like that. Even Robert, usually stone-faced, seemed impressed. "You've silenced an entire room," he said dryly. "I'll offer a free flower arranging workshop if it helps," Claire replied, her voice deadpan. That night, Claire didn't just survive the 5 minutes, she conquered the entire evening. She met CEOs, gallery owners, trust fund babies with titles for last names, and won them over one by one. Her stories of snowy Valentine's Day deliveries and racing across the city with rose baskets had people laughing and leaning in. But what surprised her most wasn't the audience. It was Nathaniel. Every time she looked over, he was there. Not fake smiling, not acting, just watching her like he saw something new. Have you ever had a moment where pretending led to something unexpectedly real? Please comment below and like this video if you believe the best love stories start with honesty. Subscribe our channel now for more powerful story-based videos every day. By the end of the evening, Claire's hair was slightly damp, her coat still smelled faintly of lavender, and her cheeks ached from smiling. But what truly struck her wasn't the mansion or the lavish dinner or even the $500 offer she had almost forgotten to collect. It was how Nathaniel's parents looked at her, not with suspicion, but with a cautious admiration, and how Nathaniel himself never once let go of her hand during the awkward transitions between conversations, introductions, and tiny elegant hors d'oeuvres served on porcelain trays worth more than her entire flower stall. Later, as the black SUV cruised back through the glimmering veins of Manhattan, Nathaniel looked at her, this time not as a man trying to escape a lie, but as someone clinging to something real for the first time in years. "Thank you for saving me tonight," he said softly as he opened the car door for her. She was silent, her eyes still scanning the city lights outside. Then, with a wry smile, she said, "You owe me more than a bouquet." Nathaniel laughed, the tension finally easing from his posture. "I know," he admitted, "but if I asked for a few more days, would you say yes?" Her eyebrows lifted. "How many minutes are we talking now?" 2 weeks, he replied, as though he was offering her a dare. "Until the Westwood Ala. My family thinks I'm about to announce an engagement, and I can't do that." There was a pause. 2 weeks sounded absurd, but absurdity was starting to feel like her new normal. And 2 weeks could mean new textbooks for Emily, rent paid ahead, a break from scraping together bouquet deliveries in the dead of winter. Claire nodded slowly. "Fine, but no crossing any lines. I'm not a prop." Nathaniel looked genuinely relieved. "I swear." And so it began, not just the continuation of a lie, but a gradual unraveling of everything Claire thought she knew about herself.
3 days later, Nathaniel showed up at her stall in jeans and a Henley, looking almost like a real person instead of the Wall Street phantom he was before. Under his arm, a folder, a coffee, and a sheepish grin. "We've got prep to do," he announced. Claire blinked. "Prep?" "Dance lessons, etiquette classes, wardrobe consulting, the works." She stared at him. "You're joking." "Nope," he grinned. "Waltzing is non-negotiable at the gala." She groaned. "I can salsa, bachata, even throw down some cumbia. But a waltz? What am I, 80? Think of it as historical cosplay." The following week was a montage of chaos. She nearly broke his foot during their first dance class. She rolled her eyes so hard during etiquette training that the instructor gently asked if she needed to rest her vision. Nathaniel attempted to execute a European-style bow at one point and ended up almost kissing the floor, leaving Claire laughing so hard she had to sit down. But amid the awkward lessons, the mismatched shoes, the high society do's and don'ts, something warm began to bloom. It wasn't the grand fireworks of a sudden romance. It was subtler, like the smell of jasmine in spring that catches you off guard and lingers long after you've passed by. It was how Nathaniel listened when she spoke. Really listened. Not just with his ears, but with his eyes, his posture, his pauses. He looked at her like she wasn't a script to memorize or a role to fill. And for Claire, that was terrifying. Because real attention is rare. Real belief in someone, especially someone who doesn't wear designer heels or smile like she belongs on a magazine cover, that's dangerous. Because once you start believing someone sees you, you might start seeing yourself differently too. A week in, Claire made a decision. No more fancy restaurants this weekend. You're coming to my place. If I'm learning to waltz through your world, you need to know what it's like in mine. So he did. Nathaniel climbed the 3 flights of stairs to her apartment, where the paint chipped near the corners and the hallway smelled vaguely like pasta and wet laundry. Inside was a tiny living room, a battered couch, and walls lined with family photos and potted plants. But the smell of roasted garlic and fresh bread in the oven, that smell made Nathaniel feel like he hadn't breathed in weeks. Claire's younger sister, Emily, appeared wearing a tomato-stained hoodie and socks that didn't match. She sized him up like a hawk. "So you're the famous fake boyfriend?" Nathaniel chuckled. "Only for 2 weeks, contractually speaking." Dinner was chaotic, loud, and sincere. They passed around plates of food Claire had made from scratch. Chicken with lemon zest, roasted potatoes, a salad tossed with a vinaigrette that Nathaniel asked for the recipe. They talked about school, dreams, and everything in between. Emily opened up about her pre-med mind, how Claire gave up college to work the flower stand full-time after their parents died. Nathaniel listened, stunned, as he learned more about Claire in one meal than he had from any etiquette class or waltz spin. Later that night, after dishes were done and Emily had retreated to her room to study, Claire and Nathaniel remained in the kitchen. The lighting was soft, casting long shadows on the walls. The silence wasn't awkward. It was full. "Sometimes," Claire whispered, "I thought my life would always be stuck in that market, delivering bouquets, collecting payments, making sure Emily had what she needed. No one ever asked what I wanted, and after a while, I stopped asking myself too. Nathaniel didn't speak. He just looked at her, really looked at her, like every cracked tile in her life was beautiful, like every sacrifice she had made mattered. "I used to dream of opening a real flower shop," she said, trying to smile. "A cooler for fresh blooms, a real counter, customers who came back every week, a little sign with my name on it." "Why'd you give it up?" he asked gently. "Because dreams don't pay bills," she said. "But at least they help me fall in love with what I do." Nathaniel swallowed hard. There was something about that sentence that lodged itself in his chest. Like she wasn't just talking about work. She was talking about her entire life, about survival, about choosing dignity over bitterness. And that was the moment, the exact moment, Nathaniel realized he wasn't pretending anymore. Not one bit. That moment of quiet honesty in Claire's kitchen could have been the beginning of something beautiful, if life had been fair. But life, especially in the upper circles of New York's elite, rarely works that way. Across the city, in a penthouse lined with marble floors and guarded by a concierge trained to ignore secrets, Charlotte Hayes was flipping through a thick stack of color photographs. Glossy, high resolution, invasive. They were images of Claire at her stall, of her laughing beside Nathaniel in dance class, of them stepping out of a restaurant, sharing an umbrella like something out of a rom-com. And then one particular photo, Nathaniel, soaked in the rain, down on one knee at the Brooklyn market. To an outsider, it looked romantic. To Charlotte, it looked like war. "It started as a joke," she muttered under her breath. Then she picked up her phone and called her private investigator. "Are you absolutely sure?" she asked coldly. Eyewitnesses at the market confirmed it. It started with a fake boyfriend request, one-time payment, then they extended the deal. There's no long-term relationship here, at least not originally. She didn't thank him. She didn't need confirmation. She needed control. Because Charlotte wasn't just another jealous ex. She was Nathaniel's expected. The woman society had hand-picked for him years ago. Their families played golf together, served on charity boards together, smiled in photo ops for business magazines. Nathaniel and Charlotte were supposed to be inevitable. And then this girl showed up, a florist with mud under her nails and nothing but audacity in her smile.
The next day, Claire found Charlotte waiting by her flower stand. Dressed in a camel trench coat, heels that weren't made for sidewalks, and a smile so sharp it could cut glass. "Claire, is it?" she said, as if trying out the name on her tongue. Claire looked up, instantly wary. "Can I help you?" Charlotte didn't waste time. She pulled a manila envelope from her purse and began to speak in a tone that was almost bored, like she was reading weather updates. "Your business license expired last month. Your tax filings haven't been submitted since the spring. I can call the city right now." Claire stared, the blood draining from her face. "You can't." "I can, and I will." "What do you want?" Charlotte took a slow breath, as if savoring the moment. "Nathaniel is mine. You were a distraction. You served your purpose, but this game ends now." Claire clenched her fists, struggling to remain calm. "He doesn't see it that way." "He's blinded by you, but I'm not, and neither is anyone in our world." She looked around the flower stall, then back at Claire, with unmistakable disdain. "You're a glitch in the system, and glitches get fixed." Then she left, leaving behind a shattered silence, a creaky stall, and one impossible choice. It's in moments like these, when someone like Charlotte decides your existence is inconvenient, that the true cruelty of social hierarchy reveals itself. This wasn't about love. It wasn't even about Nathaniel. It was about territory, about power, about a person who thought that her wealth gave her the right to edit other people out of the narrative, like smudges on a painting. And this is where the story stops being fiction for many people. In real life, we've seen countless situations like this. The student forced to give up a scholarship because they didn't have the right background. The talented artist denied access to galleries because they didn't know the right people. The single mom who's told she doesn't belong at certain schools or neighborhoods. It's the same story wrapped in different fabrics. You don't belong. You weren't invited. Your presence is an error. Claire spent the rest of that day trying to pretend she was okay, but the flowers in her hands felt heavy. The colors around her dimmed. She couldn't focus on customers, couldn't hold her scissors steady. Her mind kept replaying Charlotte's words like an echo she couldn't shake. That evening, Nathaniel stopped by unannounced. He saw her face before she could mask it. "Claire, what's wrong?" She sat down slowly on the edge of the stall's bench, twisting her fingers. "I think we should stop this." He froze. "What?" "The pretending. All of it." "Claire, what happened? Are you saying this because you want to, or because someone made you?" Her eyes flickered, pain swelling behind them, but she said nothing. In her mind, she pictured Emily, her smile after class, her arms full of medical books. Claire couldn't afford to let Charlotte ruin her sister's future, couldn't gamble her flower stand, couldn't risk everything they had worked so hard to hold together. So she lied with her silence. Nathaniel watched her, confused and devastated, as she slowly stood and turned away. He didn't chase her, not immediately, because when someone you love shuts a door in your face without an explanation, your first instinct isn't to break it down. It's to wonder if you deserved it. That night, at the Grand Westwood Gala, Nathaniel stood on stage beside Charlotte, dressed in tuxedos and fake smiles. All around them, guests clinked champagne glasses, whispering eagerly about an engagement announcement. But Nathaniel felt like he was trapped inside a movie he didn't audition for. Charlotte leaned over and whispered, "They're waiting." Nathaniel didn't answer. Instead, he turned to the crowd, and then he told the truth. "I know what you're expecting, but before I say anything else, I want to share something you didn't see. A lie was told, yes, but it wasn't by the person you think." The room fell to a hush. Everyone turned to look at him. Even Charlotte stiffened beside him. "She didn't break up with me. She was threatened, manipulated. Her business, her sister, everything she cares about was put on the line. And why? Because she doesn't come from our world?" Murmurs rippled across the room like waves. "Charlotte," he turned toward her, "do you deny it?" She straightened her posture, jaw clenched. "I did what I had to do. You'll thank me someday." "No." Another voice cut in. It was Robert Cross, Nathaniel's father. Stepping forward, his expression grave. "I've seen enough.
Let's stop pretending. Nathaniel, go find her." And just like that, the room let out a collective exhale. The performance was over. Nathaniel ran from the gala without hesitation. No jacket, no umbrella. Just hope. The rain had returned, hard and fast, as if New York itself were rooting for something real to happen. He didn't stop. He ran through crosswalks, past honking taxis, ignoring the sting of water and wind on his skin. He ran until he reached Claire's flower stand. And there she was, organizing stems, fighting tears, pretending again to be okay. Nathaniel slowed down as he approached, completely soaked. His shirt clung to his chest, his shoes squelched on the pavement, but his eyes, those eyes, were burning with something fierce and honest. "Claire," he panted, "why didn't you tell me?" She turned away, the pain on her face too raw to hide. So he did the only thing that made sense. He dropped to one knee in the same spot he had knelt weeks ago, only this time, it wasn't for a charade. From his coat, he pulled out a velvet box. Inside was a simple gold ring. No diamonds, no sparkle, just a tiny inscription. "For everything real. I'm sorry for not running after you sooner, for not protecting what mattered most. And now I'm asking, Claire Bennett, will you spend the rest of your life with me, not as a story, not as a lie, but as something honest?" Claire stared at the ring, breath caught in her throat. A month ago, she was just a florist in Brooklyn. Now she was kneeling in the rain with the man she had once called a stranger, holding something far more precious than jewelry, a choice. She whispered, "Yes."
The rain didn't let up that day, not when Nathaniel stood up, soaked and shaking, nor when Claire whispered her yes. But somehow, the rain felt like a baptism, a washing away of lies, pretenses, and fear. What was left, standing between them, was just truth. Humble, trembling, unmistakable. They didn't rush into planning. There were no diamond-studded invitations or six-tier cakes. When the day came, it was nothing like the events Claire used to deliver flowers to. No extravagant gowns, no choreographed fireworks. Just family, a few close friends, and dozens of wildflower bouquets arranged by Claire's own hands. They married in Central Park, on a small stone platform surrounded by trees, with the morning light filtering softly through the leaves. Claire wore a minimalist white lace dress, her hair pinned up with fresh flowers prepared that morning by herself and Elaine. Yes, that Elaine. The woman who once looked at Claire like a curiosity now called her my daughter. Nathaniel wore a navy blue suit, classic and simple. His eyes never left Claire's as she walked toward him. When it came time for their vows, Claire's voice trembled, not from nerves, but from the sheer weight of everything they'd lived through. "I don't promise to be perfect," she began, "but I promise to always be honest. I promise to believe in you, to stand beside you, in your strength and in your vulnerability. I promise to remember that this love began as something unexpected, but exists now because we can't imagine life without each other." Nathaniel looked at her, eyes misting. "I promise to love you not only on the easy days, but especially on the hard ones. I promise to listen, not just to your words, but to the things you're afraid to say. I promise to show up, even in the rain, especially when it matters." They kissed, not for show, not for the cameras, but because they couldn't not. It was a kiss full of every unspoken moment, every tear withheld, every smile earned. A year later, Claire Bennett's life looked very different, but not because of the wedding photos or the ring on her finger. It was different because of the purpose she carried now. She was no longer just a florist. She was now the Director of Community Development at the Westwood Group, a position personally created by Robert Cross after witnessing her gift for connecting with people from every walk of life. Claire didn't climb the corporate ladder the usual way. She built a new one from the ground up, with grit, empathy, and fresh ideas. From her modest apartment in Queens, yes, she still kept it, Claire oversaw programs that connected donors with underserved neighborhoods, launched micro-grant initiatives for women-owned businesses, and introduced practical education programs in schools that had been overlooked for too long. Her sister Emily was now a pediatric intern at St. Luke's Hospital, walking the halls in scrubs with a badge that read, "Emily Bennett, MD, in training." Every time she looked down at her badge, she whispered, "My sister made the impossible possible. Now it's my turn." And Claire? She still arranged flowers every weekend, not for money, for herself, for joy, for memory. Sometimes she would sit at the kitchen table, the sunlight streaming in, and trace her fingers over the tiny engraving inside her ring. For everything real. Because that's what they'd built. Not a fantasy, not a trophy marriage, not a deal, but something real. And it had cost them everything they once clung to for safety. But that's the truth no one tells you about love. It's not just something you fall into. It's something you fight for. It's something you build, brick by quiet brick, word by difficult word. One evening, Claire and Nathaniel were walking through the market where it all began. They stopped under the same awning where she had once tried to shield her stand from the storm. The tarp was gone now, replaced by a new metal frame and a clean wooden sign that read, "Bennett Blooms." She hadn't dreamed it. She'd done it. "Did you ever think," Claire asked, brushing her fingers over a bundle of fresh eucalyptus, "that one little lie could lead to a real marriage?" Nathaniel smiled and took her hand. "It wasn't a lie. It was bravery. We were both brave that night." And he was right. Because pretending to be something you're not, that's easy. But choosing to be real, when the world tries to edit you out, that takes courage. So here's what we take from Claire and Nathaniel's story. Life doesn't hand us fairy tales. It hands us moments, awkward, messy, sometimes rainy ones, and asks us what we'll do with them. Maybe you've been told you don't belong, that your dreams are too small, your background too humble, your presence a mistake in someone else's polished life. But Claire proves something powerful. Authenticity is your superpower. You don't need the perfect shoes, the perfect past, or the perfect plan. What you need is the ability to show up for yourself, even when no one else does. The bravery to say yes to the unknown. The strength to walk into a room that wasn't built for you and own it. And most importantly, the love you truly deserve won't ask you to change. It will recognize you as you are, maybe in a storm, maybe in mud-splattered shoes, maybe after you've stopped believing love is for people like you. But when it comes, you'll know. And when it's real, no one can take it from you. If you loved this story, be sure to subscribe to John Stories channel for more emotional, powerful, and unforgettable tales. We release new content every day that reminds you love is still out there, and your story is worth telling. Thank you for watching, and remember, you are never too small to matter, and never too late to begin again.